Hello, this is Myra Elaine from the Vine Space Channel. I am reading this Sunday morning, from the Torah. And I'm reading from 1 Kings chapter 14, verses 1. Sorry, hold on just a second. All these verses are not numbered. They are stated in the section because I'm not going to start on verse 1. But in the Torah, this section is called Half Arha of Ki Tisa. And I'm probably slaughtering that. And I apologize to those of you that speak Hebrew. But I am skipping the introduction part. This entire section is 1 Kings chapter 14, verses 1 to 39. And basically what happens in the first part of this is Elijah tells Obadiah, go get Ahab. Ahab's wife is Jezebel. Jezebel worships Baal. She has priests of Baal. They oppress people and make people worship Baal. Not a good situation. The God of Elijah, our God, the God of the Old Testament, is Yahweh. So Elijah tells Obadiah, tell Ahab to come to me. So Ahab sent unto the children of Israel and gathered the prophets together on Mount Carmel. And Elijah stepped nigh unto all the people and said, how long halt there been between two opinions? If the eternal be God, follow him. But if the Baal, then follow him. And the people answered him not a word. Then Elijah said to the people, I, even I only, was left a prophet of the Eternal. But the prophets of Baal are 450 men. Let them give us 2 bulls, and let them choose 1 bull for themselves, and sever it into pieces, and put it on wood, and put no fire under. And I will dress 1 bull, and lay it on wood, and put no fire under. And call ye on the name of your gods, and I will call on the name of the Eternal. And the God that answered by fire, let him be God. And all the people answered and said, the thing is good. And Elijah said to the prophets of Baal, choose you 1 bull for yourselves, and dress it first. For ye are many. Call on the name of your gods, but put no fire under. They took the bull which was given to them, and they dressed it, and called on the name of Baal. From the morning even until noon, saying, O Baal, answer us. But there was no voice, nor any that answered. And they leaped upon the altar which one had made, and came to pass at noon that Elijah mocked them and said, call with a loud voice, for he is God. Either he is talking, or gone aside, or he's on a journey, or persevere, he's sleepeth, and must awakened. So they called with a loud voice, and cut themselves after their manner, and swords and lances, till the blood gushed upon them. It came to pass, when midday was past, and they prophesied until the time of the offering and the evening obligation, there was neither voice nor any answer, nor any that attended. And Elijah said unto all the people, Step near me, step near unto me. And all the people stepped near unto him. And he repaired the altar of the Eternal, which was pulled down. And Elijah took 12 stones, according to the number of tribes of the sons of Jacob, unto whom the word of the Eternal was, saying, Israel shall be thy name. And with the stones he built an altar with the name of the Eternal. And he made a trench about the altar, as great as would contain 2 sheaves of seed. And he set the wood in order, and severed the bowl into pieces, and put it on the wood, and said, Fill 4 pitchers with water, and pour it on the burnt sacrifice on the wood. And he said, Do it a second time. And they did a second time. And he said, Do it a third time. And they did it a third time. And the water went round the altar, and filled the trench also with the water. And it came to pass at the time of the offering of the evening oblation that Elijah the prophet stepped near and said, Eternal God of Abraham, Isaac, and of Israel, let it be known that this day that thou art God in Israel, and that I am thy servant, and I have done all these things at thy word. Hear me, O Eternal, hear me, that this people may know that thou art the eternal God, and that thou hast turned their heart back. Then the fire of the Eternal fell and consumed the burnt sacrifice, and the wood, and the stones, and the dust, and licked up the water that was in the trench. And when all the people saw it, they fell on their faces, and they said, The Eternal, he is the God. The Eternal, he is the God. He is the God. I don't understand what's going on these days, that people are worshiping Baal. Now, there are people worshiping Baal that know they're worshiping Baal. But there are people worshiping Baal today that are unaware that they are worshiping Baal. If you go to Wall Street, that bull, it's not a golden calf. They didn't plate it with gold and put it down in the streets of New York. But that statue, that bull, represents Baal. Let me say this carefully. There's nothing wrong with having money. There's nothing wrong with being prosperous. There is a problem with greed. Wall Street, the worship of money, the worship of Baal, the worship of self, commercialism, to the point of destroying our planet, is not godly. You are putting money in front of God. You're putting money in front of having a family. And if you have a family, a lot of people are putting their money and their needs in front of their family. There's nothing wrong with a financial market itself. But there is something wrong with billionaires that are so greedy. They're driving half the world or more into poverty. There is plenty. But a few, 1 or 2% of people on this planet are hoarding all of that money. Why do you need more than 2 houses? And people are walking around homeless. So not only is it the direct worship of another deity, other than our Lord, Yahweh, the Eternal. It is also sinful greediness. And common sense tells people that what is going on is wrong. Don't worship money. Money is a tool to run an economy, but money is not something to be so obsessed about that you have to have a speedboat in your yacht because the CEO of that other company has that. That sort of greed is sinful. I understand if somebody needs a yacht to travel the world. If that's your hobby and your pleasure and you have the money, I don't see a problem with that. But I see a problem with that if you're doing that and you've got single mothers with children working for you that are starving, that are having to go homeless or live in their cars or sell out their homes that they raise their children in if they're elderly and move into a one-room apartment with a shared bathroom and shared kitchen. I have a problem with that. That person that's worked all their lives and they can barely afford a roof over their head. They have paid into the system. And I have a problem with Medicaid being canceled in various states. People are going to die. We have enough money in this country to take care of those people too. But the problem is we have 1 to 2% of people that want to hoard billions of dollars. That system will not work. It's not sustainable because when you impoverish the population, they have no way to pay back into the system because they're barely surviving. If people don't have expendable income, nobody makes money. So, if you want to worship Baal, you're going to be standing around waiting for something to happen that's not going to happen. There's this thing called a progress trap. And here's how the story goes. There were some cavemen one time, and every year they would go out and they would hunt woolly mammoths. And they would bring in a woolly mammoth and they would use the fur of the woolly mammoth for blankets. They would eat the meat. They would use the bone. They would use every single solitary part of that animal for their tribe to survive. So one day, one of the cavemen got a bright idea and developed a better weapon, a better spearhead. And every year, the tribe improved their hunting skills. So pretty soon they were killing 2 to 3 woolly mammoths, and they were doing so much better. So then they had, one of the techniques they used was to run a woolly mammoth or two over a cliff, and they would just go to the bottom of the cliff and get the woolly mammoth. And they didn't have to throw a spear, they didn't have to do anything, they just had to herd the woolly mammoths over the cliff. So then the next year, they were sitting around in the cave that winter, and one of them said, well, how about we run all the woolly mammoths over the cliff? Everybody's like, wow, we would have this, we could do this with the fur, we could line the cave with fur. I mean, and we would have woolly mammoth blankets that for our grandchildren and the next generation. So they did that. The next year, they ran the entire herd over the cliff. And they had an abundance that year. Matter of fact, they had a lot of meat that went bad. And they lined the cave with fur and lived in luxury. But then the next year came. And they had nice blankets. And they had all those products they'd made with all that bone and all that other stuff that's in woolly mammoths that you could use to survive. But they had nothing to eat because the herd didn't exist anymore. We are coming to that place in history that lots of people are going to perish because the herd has been run over the cliff for a few people to have their luxuries. Greed is wrong. You should do things in moderation as an individual. You should do things in moderation as a society. Native Americans, consider what the consequences of are their decisions for 7 generations. In the Bible, God's plan included 75 generations from David to Jesus Christ. God's plan considers the future of mankind from Adam to David and from David to Jesus Christ himself. Do not think that you having the time of your life and your life being all about fun is the answer. Because whatever you're having fun with can be gone tomorrow. God will not be. So, are you going to worship God, Yahweh, our Lord, the Eternal, the One? Or are you going to worship Baal, who's not going to show up and is not going to light that fire? Have a wonderful and blessed day, everyone.